In the path Jesus was. It's the path that showed me the way, that is love that shapes and reshapes your consciousness. Right into it. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really deeply reflective, intensely rhythmic piece of writing that's simply titled The Path. Now, it's a short text, but it is just packed to the brim with the actual mechanics of spiritual and personal transformation. What we're going to do today is neutrally deconstruct this text. Think of it almost like we're looking at a mechanical schematic for awakening. The author outlines a very specific process here, basically a chain reaction of the mind and spirit. And we are going to break down exactly how this fascinating mechanism works, step by step, entirely using the text's own blueprint. So here are the milestones on the road we're about to travel. First, defining the path. Second, evolving consciousness. Third, leaving the past behind. And finally, the road of faith. Starting with section 1, defining the path, the starting point. What's really interesting right off the bat is the author's intentional capitalization here. Path isn't just some generic noun. It's treated as a concrete, undeniable landmark. As we look at how the text defines this, the path isn't a physical trail of dirt or stone. It's much more of a conceptual and spiritual space. It's described as the way shown to the author, and it's explicitly associated with the figure of Jesus. But crucially, the text defines this path fundamentally as an active force, which is love. So it isn't just a place where you stand. It's an environment characterized entirely by this powerful, active emotion. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the sequential logic of the author's argument. Just look at how these steps build on each other. Step 1 is interacting with the path, which, as we just established, is love. Now, this interaction leads directly to step 2, a reshaping of consciousness. So you don't just experience the love, it's actually actively altering your internal landscape, which then inevitably triggers step 3, a totally new understanding of the self. It's this direct, cause and effect relationship that maps out exactly how an external path creates profound internal change. Okay, moving to section 2, evolution of consciousness, the journey inward. So once that initial change begins, some pretty profound internal shifts start happening within the traveler. The text states that this love, quote, shapes and reshapes your consciousness so deeply that you begin to understand the self more than what you used to be. I really want you to notice the author's deliberate use of repetition there. Shapes and reshapes. This isn't just some one-time fix or a sudden flash of insight, right? The phrasing emphasizes an ongoing, intense, maybe even exhausting process of psychological transformation. It's literally a continuous molding. Based on that constant reshaping, the author defines this evolution of human consciousness. But notice that we have to define evolution strictly through the lens of this specific text. In this context, it's absolutely not about biology. It is defined as this inward deepening of self-understanding that actively moves away from previous states of being. It's an evolution defined by outgrowing your own history. And what's the primary fuel for this massive shift? Well, the author uses a really striking emotional crescendo here. Love and love. Let's look at how this builds. It is not just a passing feeling. The repetition actually acts as an intensifier. This double-down love and love is essentially the raw energy required to continuously reshape one's consciousness and drive that evolution forward. This brings us to section 3, leaving the past behind, the central conflict. Every good journey has an obstacle, right? And here we find a built-in tension between where the consciousness was and where it is desperately attempting to go. The text defines the past as a state of being or history that human consciousness, and I quote, always seeks. This is such a fascinating view of human nature. The author is highlighting this inherent gravitational pull we all have. Our consciousness isn't naturally inclined to change. It kind of has a default setting that continuously pulls it backward, seeking out the comfort, the familiarity, or the safety of the past. So, we can juxtapose these two opposing forces to really map out this profound conflict. Over on the left side, we have the old, that gravitational pull of the past that our human nature always seeks. And pulling in the exact opposite direction on the right side, we have a new belief, the road of change moving away from the old. And that's the struggle. Your consciousness is caught right smack in the middle of these two immense forces. So the really crucial point here is how the author actually resolves this conflict. The text says, but the more you begin to see a new way out of the old, that's the road of change. By adopting the road of change over the comfort of the old, you literally create a way out. But it requires a conscious effort, right? You have to see that new path and adopt a new belief that is strong enough to finally break that gravitational pull of your historical self. And finally, Section 4, the Road of Faith, the final destination. All right, so we've mapped out the starting point, the internal mechanism, and the central conflict. Now let's analyze the ultimate purpose of all this. The author explicitly outlines the goals for sharing this text and actually refers to it directly as a lesson. The purposes are simple: to inspire, to get transformed, and to become more than what you are. The entire journey we just mapped out culminates right here, in the act of completely outgrowing your former limits. Let's revisit that capitalized concept of transformation for a second. In the context of this source material, transformation is the fully realized outcome of the entire mechanical process we've just deconstructed. It's the occurrence that results from walking the path, battling the pull of the past, and allowing yourself to become deeply, fundamentally altered from who you used to be. And that brings us to the climax of the source material. The text ends with this emphatic exclamation: "It's the road of faith." This is the ultimate realization and the capitalized destination of the whole journey. It suggests that moving away from your known past and stepping onto this road of change, armed only with a new belief in love, well, that requires an immense, defining leap of faith. It's a genuinely fascinating breakdown of how internal change happens, wouldn't you agree? So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this. How does your own consciousness navigate the tension between the safe pull of the past and the transformative road of a new belief? Are you letting the past pull you back, or are you actively stepping onto the road of change? Think about it. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and keep asking the big questions.